There, I got it to work, folks. Sometimes, I can never figure out how this thing works. So, look at this desk. It's amazing. Welcome to SketchCraft Live. Old Rob art, Rob's old art, part dos. So, basically, last night, I'm packing the studio, which if you can look behind me, it's all packed except for the stuff that needs to be wrapped up in those two lights, because I'm going to need those. Studio's packed up, so I'm packing the house now. Anyways, as I've been packing up my stuff, I've come across all my old art throughout the last 10 plus years. So last night we covered most of it, but there was a box I was looking for that had a bunch of stuff. And I thought, what better way to go over that stuff than now, because I don't want to do that shit again once I get up to fucking Idaho. Like, I want to be done looking at this stuff. So we're going to spend another hour, maybe two, going over this. And to help me go through this fun task is Brandon, Lead Heavy, James. Brandon, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Aren't you excited?
I'm so excited. There's nothing I love more than podcasting on a Friday night. Love it.
Staring at Rob's art.
Yeah, not even staring at the art, staring at the screen of your art. I like it.
Faux wood. Now, here's the bonus thing, right, everybody? Here's the bonus, right?
Bonus.
As we're talking about artwork and all the things I did, what you see here, this nice wood, right, you see here, actually came from a piece of art that I did in 2003. So we'll get to that little story. I tried to actually find it. I don't have it. But this right here is directly related to the art. So it's like a little Easter egg. So anyway, I thought we'd start with, I actually went and put all this in order so we won't be jumping around the timeline. And we'll be starting off with 2001. So I want to set the stage really quick. So in 2001, I got out the military prior to 9/11, actually, in March. And I came back, and I started doing security again, and I hated my life. So I went back to drawing comics. And this time I had this idea about kids that lived in like this orphanage and ran around this park, and they meet this girl who lives in a water tower and everything. So I named it after this place that I had lived in called Kalispell, Montana. It wasn't actually that place. And so these were actually boards that I drew. Let me open up the Logitech cam. I actually closed that little son of a gun. Oh, move that over here. All right. So I had the idea at the time in 2001 I wanted to draw it widescreen, so it'd be like a movie. Look at these film strip panels. So again, sort of a problem I had with perspective. All my shots were flat. They were very straight on. So it's gonna be close up of the kid's face.
Very Kevin Smithish.
Right? Is it?
Yeah.
Kevin Smith.
He shoots all his shots at basically eye level. There's no angles.
That's an interesting relationship to the art. Okay, thank you for that, Brandon. Thank you. So
you're talking about wanting your art to look cinematic, okay? And you're talking about it being straight on flat. And the first thought that came to mind was Clerks. Just the face, them standing there in the middle of something, just flat.
It just popped in there. Huh.
Hey man, this is what I bring to the table. All right, yeah. This is what I brought. This is what I brought tonight.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
We're not winning any awards here with this.
Oh, wow. News to Rob. So I'm going to let you keep track of the chat room, Brandon, all right? Yep. Anyhow, so this would be the opening shot of a kid at this diving board. And it'd be the idea was that the camera would look above him, and then you'd see him looking to dive in this pool of water. And then, let me see if I can just put these in the box as I go. And so then his mother's sitting here, and he gives her the thumbs up. She's like, hey, and then he runs off, and she looks at him, and then he leaps, and then just falls into the water, and she cries. It's all about She's like, I think at the time, like the mom was, she had to give up her kid. Like she's right into this orphanage that she can't take care of her kid. He doesn't know, is the idea. So it's kind of a flashback. And then she puts the note in there, and then zoom in on the note, and then the note goes to the social worker who's working with the kid. So was the basic idea. But overall, the art was extremely flat. Straight on, 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 straight on. A lot of panels though. Which is kind of funny because as Game Cave comes out, you're gonna see I kind of went back to that idea of not the straight on, but the multiple panels. So, boom. And I drew this all at night while being a security guard. So this would be this. So I was trying to mix some of my experiences in the military. Like I try to treat the kids' orphanage similar to living in the barracks, or even in basic training when you have a bunch of guys living with you and you have to share the bathroom, or you have bunk buddies and shit.
Right.
So sort of loosely based off this. This character's name was Capo. That was Flossie. I don't remember this dude. Yeah.
2003.
2001. It's
Oh,
2001.
2001.
2001. And this is a little Easter egg. This is the character Robin Rich from the previous My Story. The thing I was showing you before, the comic that I was working on before. Just work them in there. It's little Easter eggs. Like that shared universe before that was a fucking thing. So, anyway, that was me working on my own comic. I was trying to get that ready for Comic-Con 2001, and I had my stuff ready, and my buddy Joe and my buddy Adam had none of their shit done. They're like, oh, I'll do it next year. And I got all pissed. I'm like, you fuckers aren't serious about art. So you fucking, I didn't just spend 4 years, 3 years fucking, my buddies didn't die in Nam, so you could miss Comic-Con, that kind of shit. Like, Walter, Mm. So I had this art jam with my buddy Joe, and he was like, let's draw something. He told me to draw Battle Chasers, and I told him to draw, I can't fucking remember. And this is where I was like, I don't know how to draw chicks. So this was me trying to draw Red Monica
Yes.
from Battle Chasers.
I'm ready.
You ready, Brandon?
My favorite piece ever. I want to own this one day. I might buy it off you if I can. Yes.
You like that?
Oh, I love it. So much sass.
This was 2001. It was because of this drawing I realized I need help. I think I can't teach myself any more than I've already taught myself.
Right.
So I started looking around. My dad had a heart attack. And so I was living with him because he needed my help running the company and everything else. So I didn't want to move to LA and get a real fucking art career going. So I looked to anything local, and there was an art institute. I thought it would be just basically like a specialized art center, similar to like Joe Kubert. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where you kind of overpay, but at least I'll learn how to fucking illustrate. So they had a 2D animation course, and that's what I was specifically wanting to do. I figured, well, if I learn how to animate in 2D by hand, then I'll become better. Because I couldn't think of anything harder to do. Like,
Right.
that was my logic, right? And, yeah. So I went to AI, and we kind of already covered a bit of that stuff, but I did found some additional drawings that I did my first year there. Some stuff. Because this is the last time I actually drew for girls, right? So this was a girl I was dating. So, like, I drew a picture of me peeking in on her, right? I'd send her these little drawings during the day while she was at work. I was like, hey, check me. It's pervy, but, my heart was in the right place. And then I made the mistake of trying to draw her like Catwoman, right? Right. So slightly better faces, but not really, Perspective's interesting, but and so anyway, she was a writer, or she fancied herself a writer. And so she had this comic book she was trying to do, or she had this idea of a CD-ROM comic where it would be like shockwave animation on CD-ROM, and you could buy it at Comic-Con, and it would have animation, and it would be like a movie on CD-ROM in a way. I don't know. Anyways, so she got all these groups of people to get out to school to work on this thing, and I only went to the meeting because I wanted to go on a date. And she's like, "You want to draw the comic?" I'm like, "No, I kind of want to go on a date." And she did not approve of that, so I had to draw the comic. So here's how I waste. Here's 2003. So this was the script she actually wrote for this thing. Now this, look at this shit. Like, this is for a comic book. And look, it says 20-page script, but you've seen comic scripts. They're not like this.
No.
You know what I mean? This is a movie script. And by the way, like even to make this a comic, I don't know how. Like I didn't get it. So I was like, look, I don't know how to make a fucking CD-ROM thing with a bunch of people. There was no Kickstarter. I don't know how to get the money for that. And she was talking to all these programmers to do Shockwave. I said, well, we can just make a comic book. So it's supposed to be this sci-fi geisha thing she called Ukiyo about two sisters, and it had to do with like, I don't know, energy or some bullshit. I'll be honest, man, I didn't really care, but but I liked this girl, so you know, I thought I'd be the hero. Turned out I ended up becoming the villain. So I did a bunch of early sketch designs for ships. These are like really organic-y looking, you know, bubbly, but try to make them kind of like bug-like. So these are different bee bugs or something. Then I tried to draw frames of animation, and then I came up with the logo. Kind of Muka-esque before that was all popular.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2002. There's another vehicle idea. Here's a concept idea for some container thing. They'd be in this tube and there'd be guys working. I don't know. This is supposed to be an establishing shot idea. She never liked the idea of it. So, and then I designed did a concept sketch for one of the girls, which I was like, hey, look, the face looks remotely female now. Yeah, I was like, it's getting better, but, you know,
Right.
not there yet. I even tried to work in yin-yangs into her goggles. I was very proud of this, you know, but she just didn't like it. So then everyone on her team left, and it was just me. And I was like, I can't draw a whole comic by myself. So Joe was living with me, and I had said, Joe, why don't you and me draw the book in half? Like, and I'll do breakdowns for the first half, and you can go over the breakdowns. So breakdowns are like when I do a sketch and you go over it, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was having Joe do. Joe didn't want any of the shit. Like, I pushed Joe. And then I drew the second half. So this is actually my layouts with Joe's inks, like in cleanup, going over that. And then these are some pages of the same thing. So I did the basic layout, and you can see now I've worked out grids, you know, and this is Joe's pencils over my own. And I tried to work on the costumes. I tried to make, she wanted these geisha girls, but I tried to make the space guys that owned them have similar costumes that were in the Civil War. If you look at the early Civil War outfits,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that kind of stuff going on. And this was a big shot for Joe. Joe hated this piece. This is this giant area where all these geishas would be, and I wanted all the interior to be Muka-esque. I was gonna work all this Muka stuff in. I mean, this is where I had to like yell at Joe because he'd just sit there and not do anything. He'd just sit in his room doing nothing. I'm like, "You drawing yet?" And he'd be like, "I don't know, man. Just don't have time." And I'm like, "Fucking loser." So like all I gotta say is, if you think I'm mean to Brandon, you should have been there in 2002 when this shit was going on. But given indie comics, even now, Brandon, what you see in Artist Alley, you know what I mean? It's acceptable, right? Like,
Yeah.
for a couple people just trying to make an indie comic on their own, you know?
Yeah. It's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not great. It's not. You're not gonna get work from this, but that's why I was so reluctant to like work with you. I was like, I've done this. It didn't go well. I didn't have a good time. So this is my own panels without Joe. So this is another sequence where this girl's supposed to come in, and her dad's sequence where she realizes her father, I don't know, got injured or something. He got exposed to this gas.
This book looks boring.
Oh, but I hate the fucking story, bro. Like, I wasn't doing this because I was like, oh, this is an amazing story. I didn't give a shit, you know? But I did get to draw a city shot, so I was very proud of this. Look at this perspective going on here. Look at that. Ooh. And then some more fucking stuff with that. None of it worked out. So that project went nowhere. Oh, I will say this. Here's a couple pages that actually kind of worked out really well from that. This was me actually redrawing that establishing shot, trying to
Uh-huh.
work out more architecture. And then I drew this fight sequence that had something to it. Like, so this would be this chick, supposed to be her nemesis. They're supposed to fight. And she goes, ah, she charges her. And it's supposed to be a flip, right?
What does she say when she charges her?
She goes, ah, fuck you. You know, look how you look at yin yangs. And then she got a little boot to the face, kicks her, boosh. Looking at it now, this could have gone right to that. Like you could have done the foot up and then gone boosh right there. And then just cut to that. But whatever. And this was the last page I drew. This is where I was like, I could draw these little people and then just Photoshop the rest in. It's supposed to be all these girls going off into space. I don't fucking know, man. It wasn't a great story. But Brandon, sometimes you take gigs you don't enjoy. So I quit that, and then I did this one page for my own self that would have been like that the comic with the kids. It would have been me at the time having a conversation about drawing that, and then going into the actual comic. And I never got past this page. I just wanted to see what I would do now at this point. So this is 2002. You know, and given those older issues, you know, look, he has 5 fingers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually some curving here going on with the if you look at the walls here, right? It's a little dynamic,
A little more perspective.
a little bit more perspective, you know.
Looks just like you.
Well, it was supposed to be me. That was the whole point.
It literally is you.
Yeah, it's me having a conversation.
Good job.
So, anyways, I gave up on that and I went back and learned animation. So this was some of my initial stuff. I had to create a character, and I didn't want to do complicated stuff. So I created a character called Yam, which was just a bubble. I just wanted a bubble character. So this was some initial like motioning for the feet. You gotta like track the heels whenever you animate. You gotta track the heels. And so this was more walk cycle stuff. They have this lift. And then working out 3-dimensional shapes. Same character, more 3-dimensional shapes. Working out how his hands would work like mittens and which shapes I'd actually animate. 3-frame run.
A lot more, 3D look to the characters though compared to the other stuff.
Yeah, because this is all I'm doing is focusing on that, right?
Right.
So like low angle, side, turn, over, you know? You can see the grids. And then I found that Gnome on DVD that explained all the stuff I knew about perspective but didn't know how to fucking do it. So when I say I did the Gnome on DVD that I always recommend, I really did. This is an exterior shot, 2-point perspective, all gridded out. No 3D.
How long do you think that took you, if you remember?
An hour or two. You should see the final drawing. I can't find it. I don't know where I put it. But it was big. And then I did a bunch of exterior drawings for an animation project at school. This is one of them inside of an airplane cockpit. This is a close-up of the panel. And this, let's see here. This is 2. This is me working out same way they use on the Gnome on DVD, 2-point for a McDonald's, like a McDonald's type store or whatever. And then the cleanup drawing. And I always liked this better because it showed the effort.
Right. Like, look how much time I put into this.
Yeah. I was like, well, what's the point if you can't fucking, you know.
Mm.
And so this was some giant exterior shot. I have color pics of these on the drive somewhere, but
And just to fill you in on the chat, Abraham, Leon, Richard, all say hi, and Akuma says, I've been working with that Nomon DVD for about a month now.
it works. So after that, I went and thought, okay, Comic Con was coming up. I wanted to do my own comic for Yam. I had done some other stuff which you'd seen, the little thumbnails. I wanted to make a
Mm-hmm.
comic out of it, and these were actually some of the pages that I drew of that. So let me zoom out a little bit. So this was the first panel where he'd be like packing his stuff. He's got his clothes, his mortgage, leave the goats in charge, take the yams to market to pay off his mortgage. Bills due July 26th. That's actually the day I had to have it done for Comic Con. It's a nice little inside joke, right?
Little inside thing.
Yeah. But, I mean, you could see already in a year. This is a year between that Ukiyo stuff and this. You know? Of just doing all that perspective stuff, you know?
Right.
Got high angle shots looking down. Look, I get it's tough to see all of it because it's not in color, you know? I draw a lot of
Right.
little details. But that being said, you know, for some reason I was really into these multi-character panels where like the same character moves.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why. I don't know why I was really into that.
Kind of like Spider-Man where you see him jump, leap, swing.
Yeah, and so this is where he leaves the key to the farm to his goats. And he gives them the holy key. Don't ask me what this was about. I have no clue. I was just making it up. He gives him a thumbs up. He's like, "Hey, I was just making this up as I went." You know, like I don't know. He'll
Fair enough.
leave the goats in charge, and as I did, he'd meet a cat, and then he'd get stuck in a war fighting, and then it would get really dark. But I don't know. Never finished it. And then he has this one-wheeled motorcycle. And he revs it up, and he takes off. Leaves. I actually printed this up, and Joe gave it to Quentin Tarantino. He just happened to be standing next to him at a booth, and Quentin looked at it and just like dropped it. It's fucking hilarious. So and these were some of the other panels. So this is this little motorcycle thing I drew. I actually took these panels and animated them, like a little animatic with this lid
Really?
opening and closing, and yeah, it actually works. Like when you sequenced it up, you know. So, and then these were a bunch of panels I never finished. You can't really see them, but it's just I blocked all this stuff in. And I had some more pages. I just don't know what happened to them. But there'd be this whole thing where he had to park his bike. He gets off. This bridge is out, and he meets his cat, and the cat goes with him. And I don't know, man. I gave up. So at that same time, me and that chick started hanging out again. And I just said, hey, she's like, what about Ukiyo? We should do that again, I guess. And I'm like, why not? Let's do this a second chance. So this was 6 months of my life that I wish I'd never wasted. So I went in there. First thing I did is I didn't like the way I drew the girls initially. So I went back and I redesigned all the geisha.
Mm-hmm.
All the dudes. Using heads high and all that stuff, you know. And then I went and did a pinup of it. Proof of concept. Sort of see a difference here.
This was 2003.
Three.
Three?
Yeah, 2003, 2004, somewhere around there. Yeah, 2003, 2004, between there. And then I quit. I didn't care. No, we didn't last long after that. And then I actually drew a Spider-Man. instead of continuing to work on our comic. This is the first time I actually did a piece of fan art. Look at this. Look at this Spider-Man. Ooh. Look at that amazing construction going on there.
It's got some good hip movement.
Yeah. This is definitely 2004. And then I went and got a job doing T-shirts and had to learn how to draw all sorts of shit I didn't want to do, like Chinese dragon. It's on some kid's skate shirt. Grim Reapers. That's actual inks for Monty Python.
Hmm.
Chalice. I had to learn how to do that whole tattoo thing.
Right.
That's all Copic multi-liners, by the way. And then remember we talked about Mosaic. I did entertain going back to that for a little bit. And this was a concept I did for a pinup that would have featured, let me zoom in a little bit. Would have featured the main character riding his little suitcase with the tomatoes and then soup and then his sister and all the nobbies and then this main character that picks him up. I'm going to do a big headshot. But you can already see the composition here, right, is way different than what I was doing
Yeah.
later on, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I took a bunch of freelance jobs, and there was some stuff for some. This guy was doing this like D&D action figure type game stuff, and so I did some figure designs for that. Stuff I've never posted before. It's really cool.
Richard Simpson says, awesome seeing the progression. Dr. Edwards says, noise.
Noise.
Akuma says, I think when you showed the Grim Reaper type, he said that's the kind of shit I tattoo every day. Richard says, I'm a tattoo artist also, and it's interesting to see the evolution of your drawing style. In the first initial drawings, you wouldn't think you drew it. Yeah. I mean, these are what year is these ones right here? This is 2004?
This is 2005. This right
5.
here. Yeah.
Okay.
The ink stuff and this stuff is around 2005. Like these guys here. And then I've covered a lot of this stuff before, folks. So if you want to see even more of the art, the part one's already up on the channel.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see more of the Mosaic stuff and all this. Sort of that, the Mosaic, the 2005, 2006 stuff is kind of like there. But what happened was, so I'm working on T-shirts and the Mosaic thing falls through. And I was going to do this calendar with my buddy, my old art director, called Guns and Butter. It's going to be chicks and motorcycles. And it was going to be me, Joe, and him. And we went to Joe Phillips. You know Joe Phillips, right?
Mm-hmm.
He used to work at Wildstorm and stuff, dude. He's
Okay.
super gay, dude. He's cool, but he's super gay. He's gay calendars and stuff. And so, but he did calendars. So this was before Kickstarter. So we went over there to ask him, and the guy was super cool, dude, because he was like giving us a lowdown how to do it, who to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of the weirdest experiences. It was like being in the Big Lebowski. You know when Lebowski went to that place with the chick who paints, and there's that weird guy laughing? It was like that. He even had this weird guy just sitting there. Remember in the Lebowski, there was that cute guy just sitting there?
Yeah.
That they just sort of like a man toy, like he had one. So
That's the way to do it.
It's one of the weird and big naked statues of dudes. It was fucking awesome, dude. It's one of the craziest nights of my life. I'm like, this is a fucking story. He needs to be on Cribs. Joe Phillips is amazing. That being said, the calendar didn't work out because my art director wanted to direct the art, and I was drawing at sort of a level like on T-shirts he could beat me, but in comic book art. And there was a clashing of opinions there. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. And I drew this. This is my idea of a girl on a motorbike filled with guns. And I had this idea of like she could be like those, you know, those fish that have those little lanterns that hang over. She could have like the same little thing. Kind of all worked.
Did I meet you when right after you did this?
This is right when you first, yeah.
Because I remember seeing this on your card or something. I think the card I got from you had this on it.
Yeah, and Art Thurbert saw us at Con. He was like, I'm like, yeah, I'm just trying to break in. He's like, good start. You know, so that was nice. So it's a pretty big leap, you know, just in, like, the guy, this is what, like, basic construction and working in the detail. That's why when people go, oh, you know, you do all your stuff digitally. I'm like, yeah, but I don't need, you know what I mean? Like I do it because when I need the clean art, the clean lines, inking this was a fucking nightmare. Digitally, it wouldn't have been such a big deal, but all these little details with pencils, this is all
Mm-hmm.
pencil, man, you know? And then, but I felt like now this is what I'm trying to do.
Right.
So, the face is still okay, but it was a step forward. And then I worked on a couple other freelance projects with Adam really quickly. He had this deal for, Skylanders, you buy a toy,
Yep.
put it in the game. He came up with this idea, same idea, buy a toy, works in a video game, but he wanted to be like post-apocalyptic dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So I did some basic designs for that and then didn't get paid. And I'm like, we're done. We're done working. So this was some sketches for that. And again, here's me working out kind of silhouettes with marker and drawing over that. So when I'm like, yeah, you can technically block it in with marker and draw over it. And that led to Monstroids. Now, I did manage to find a bunch of developmental, is that word? Development art? Concept art? Anyways, development art for Monstroids. So this is all hand drawn, face shot, because we had to make these model sheets to go pitch to Nickelodeon.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Frankenborg. Here's Wolf Guy. Like they end up being collected like this and then colored. See? That's how the idea is. So this would be that guy. And then the mummy dude from reverse. And the mummy guy's head. That's why when we were looking at that guy's pages the other day and he drew all that chrome, I'm like, you kind of don't need to do that.
Right.
You know? Like, I've been there. This goblin guy. Mummy dude. The creature from the Black Lagoon. I gave him a Rocketeer pack. Yeah.
Much more 3D with the shapes, the goggles, the bolts.
Yeah, they're big McGinnis kind of style,
Mm-hmm.
shapes, in a way. This guy I made up. That was my design. I just wanted a skull in a jar. I'm like, every fucking monster movie has a skull, a head in a jar. We need a head in a jar. I don't know what he would be, just like the science. He'd be the alien, right? The thing that represents B monster movies, alien movies. This is supposed to be the Crunchback, I think was his name. Get it? Haha.
Clever.
Very clever. Here's the werewolf dude. This is all before I started drawing the comic, mind you. This is the lockjaw guy. And then the vampire. The vampire dude.
So this was 2000.
7-ish or
So
8. Between
how many
2007 and 2008.
how many years after the military? So you're back into drawing.
7 years.
So this is about 7 years of progress.
Yeah, 7 years of progress. And it's not everything. It's just what I have.
Right.
There's
So
so many more.
7 years at that point, and then that was 2007. So now you're
7 years from roughly 9
from
years
this.
from that. Yeah. Yeah.
This is like a halfway point from when you started out of the military to now.
Yeah. And so then I did Brandon, you own the one issue that ever got printed at Monstroids, the 0 issue, right?
I do. I do.
You want
own
to see
that.
all the pages?
I don't want to see all the pages. I
No.
want to see some of the pages.
Too bad. So here's the cover. Now this was interesting because I didn't want this idea for a cover. Kevin Grievous really wanted me to emulate an Avengers cover where they're all looking at the bad guys.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, why don't we just have the fucking Monstroids on the front cover? Anyway, Diamond didn't agree with this idea too, but I wasn't drawing another cover at this point, so I was like, too fucking bad. So this is the Monstroids here, facing their enemies. I made these samurai bugs, because I wanted to draw Ninja Turtles, so I gave them samurai bugs. And they're extracting oil from the earth, guys. Oh no, it's an energy source. Very deep. So there was an origin story, right, right here, and I kind of made their leader prophet, right? Like that's a little prophet face right there. Why not? Gave him the prophet glasses. This is how he built the monstroids. They even killed Joe in the grave. And then here, I'll show you the page that like really. This was the big reveal of the bad guys. The big samurai bugs. So the idea that these little guys would drop out like little pods. Like in their little pod shells, they just drop out kind of like turtles all shrunken, and then they'd pop out and have wings and swords and shit. So yeah, this is 2007, summer 2007 or winter 2007, somewhere around there. So that was a big deal for me, that page, and then it just got weird. Struggled, struggled on this one. So like this was a big establishing shot for the monsters. Lived in a swamp. They had a mansion in a swamp. So I had mentioned like a place set would be this base log thing. You can go in there and it'd be this mansion. Then they have all this technology in there. I don't know, man. It was weird. Then they get into a big fight. And then here's where I actually drew over. I hated this like face. So look, I drew that over. Oh shit. Still a fucked up panel. Didn't really work out. Yeah.
I'm gonna put my mic on mute. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Just 1 minute.
And the monsters continue to fight. So a lot of really clean pencils, folks. Is basically it. You know, they weren't giving me an inker. There was no money for that. So you know, I needed the pencils to be as clean as I could get them. I mean, looking back at it, like they're really there's a lot of lines here that don't need to be here, just because they make them look like stretched taffy. Give me a second. All right, let me look at the chat room while Brandon's gone. How long did it take you to be at your stage? Started drawing and designing a couple years ago. I have a long way to go before I can generate my own characters. How long do I have to? I do not know. Like, I would go back to construction and perspective, you know, and then I would start doing 3D modeling so you can, and maybe ZBrush so you can learn how to think about things three-dimensionally, and then start building your figures. Like, instead of drawing a picture of Batman, draw from a statue of Batman. Does that make sense? But you see, like I drew all these chrome pieces. I didn't need to do that. The colorist, I mean, that can be done in color, so it's kind of pointless. But a lot of these, the way the lines work here, it didn't really translate well to the final colors. This page was pretty. This is where they're supposed to take off. So I drew this jet. I like the way this kind of angled up here, and then you would see into. I had to see into the cockpit. And this was a script issue. So the script wrote that they take off on their jet. The monsters are talking. They're all together. You see that the ships are surrounding this island base, and then they go underwater. This is all on one page, and I'm like, Kevin, how are you supposed to do that shit? How are you supposed to have the monsters all talking on a ship? Like, first, they're fucking huge. Like, they're giant action figures. Brandon, when you had action figures, did you ever like have a hard time shoving them all into the Millennium Falcon? You know what I mean? Like they never fit right.
Oh yeah.
So this was
These
like
guys are like the size of Hulk.
and so this was like trying to draw that stuff. You know, like I'm like Kevin, how are they supposed to have these two having a conversation? He wanted their ship to look like a giant B-2 bomber, and I'm like, fucking that sucks. I want to give him a giant cool fucking jet. You know, like. So and then I only wanted the characters who were talking in frame. But he's like, the other monsters are supposed to be in here. I'm like, where the fuck am I supposed to put him, bro? There's 4 panels. Like they have to launch, have a conversation, all of them, and then go underwater in one page. That was a fucking nightmare. And so then they're all in the ready room, ready to launch on the next panel. All these characters. It's not a hard fucking time. This is where I tried to do that because he complained. I tried to actually draw all these characters loading up. It's fucking ridiculous. Meanwhile, I'm like checking out Sean Galloway's pages, and it's like, big face, couple dudes popping out. I'm like, that's the fucking life, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's the fucking life. Why am I doing this? And a lot of this kind of stuff doesn't translate well to final color, like these little silhouettes and stuff. You gotta have a good colorist, And I had a good colorist. Like I like this way. I wanted the idea that the guns on the ship were like almost like claws, crab claws. Like fucking, like the ship could hunch over and be like, "That's right, motherfucker!" Like 2 guns, like Vato, you know.
You are hardcore, sir.
Hey man, I'm from the streets, so like. Hey, dude, I'm totally from the streets, brah. All right, like Taco Bell. Anyway, so this was the 0 issue of Monster. I tried to even make all the enemy ships have like a bug-like thing again, like it's like a beetle face here. It's a lot of effort for a little comic, right?
Yeah.
But the idea was that they said it was going to be a cartoon, so I was trying to design the toys ahead of time, And so they attack. And the whole while they're like, you're putting too much effort into this. You need to speed it up. I'm like, oh, fuck, man. I had a full-time job, by the way, too. Like, I actually was doing T-shirts and going to school. I was still in AI while I did this. So I went to school, worked 40 hours a week, and then came home and worked on this, which is why I'm not sympathetic to Brandon's plight. This is the wolf attacking the giant gun. They fight some more. This is a good hit. He hits him. This is a classic Savage Dragon shot here, where he punches on the bottom.
Right.
Yeah, classic Savage Dragon. But look at all these little chrome bits, Brandon. What's the point?
Yeah.
And what's the point of all those cables? Those cables that were plugged into them came in the initial designs. I didn't actually come up with that idea. That was them. And I was like, we got to get rid of these.
What purpose do they serve?
I do not know. Like, it seems to me anyone could grab them and kill them with them. Like, none of that made sense to me.
This one that plugs into my arm plugs into my back, so it powers my arm.
I think this guy's trying. He sidekicks him. This is a psych. It's hard to tell, dude, but he sidekicks him. Oh, and then, this was a crazy panel I had to draw. So the mummy's hands are supposed to come out and extend around. I had no idea how to draw that. How do the fingers come out and wrap around a guy? And then they break them and throw him. Like, you could write that shit, but then go draw it. You know what I mean? So he throws his finger. Kevin writes like it's going to be in a movie where you just like this and then they shoot out. And yeah, if you film that, I could see the motion. But how are you supposed to draw the motion? Like this could be a 2 or 3 panel sequence in a manga. If you really think about it. So like they break, and then here they both grab these things and toss them around. His fingers snap off, and he flies into another guy during the fight. Was the idea. This was the last page. Where they may make friends, and they teach them that there's a renewable energy source, and they all get along. Yeah, I shit you not. I'm not kidding. So anyhow, that was my first full issue. Before I went and did Monsteroids 1. In between that, I got a job at Play Magazine. And at Play Magazine, I went to work on a book called Death Jr., which I'll get to in a minute. But there was a lot of delays on Death Jr. because the guy who wrote it, or the owner of the company, never actually wrote a script. So I talked him into making me the artist for the magazine so I can, continue to earn a living, pay my rent. And so this is the line arts from one of the Girls of Gaming I did. The ATV chicks. This is me trying to do a little bit of that Mike Turner thing with the face, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then what else we got here? This was something I never used. This is interior. Look at this giant fucking thing. This is supposed to be a collection of characters. It's this big because the magazine dimensions are square. So Dave had all these different characters like Solid Snake and Cloud, but he hated all this art. He's like, that doesn't look like Ryu, and Cloud doesn't fucking look like that, and that looks, that's not, that's, it's all gritty. He hated all this shit. So I had to go and retrace all this into really clean vector style and fix all the faces and make them happy. So I was trying to add all these little gritty textures because I thought it would be more like comic booky, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't work out so well for me. And then this was an idea I had for the Halloween issue that got rejected. No one's ever seen this. Super Mario Zombies. It's 2008. It's been done since, but this was my take on it before. This is going to be Luigi with his brain. It's got a little axe. The Chomp Chomp was going to be a zombie. This is before like Walking Dead. I was really into zombies, you know? This is before zombies took off. And then now I don't give a shit. But yeah, Princess Toad had no hair. She was like, oh, she's got no hand.
That's cool though. I like it.
Yeah, it went nowhere. And these are the rough pencils for my Psychonauts piece. You remember that one, Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
So this came in 3 bits. This was my initial pencils over my rough. So I printed it out into these initial pencils that I traced over digitally. You know? And I had this idea that there'd also be the guy on the trapeze who was swinging up here. That got rejected. Dave hates that guy apparently. So I did another pass. There's the squirrel, if you know the game, guys. So I did a second pass. That actually got used where that's Ollendorf, whatever. And so I blocked all these characters and I just comped them together in Photoshop and then did the cleanup. There's D'Artagnan, the character that's initially was the original character for Psychonauts. This was an initial idea, an alternate pass at some of the other characters. I could have put some of the other students. Like I just gave alternate options and let Dave pick and choose which ones, and then did my inks off that. And then Dave let me draw a cover. My first cover was going to be for a game called Shadow Complex. You ever hear that one, Brandon?
No.
It's an Xbox Live game, kind of Metroidvania, featuring this sort of like soldier. It's going to be the first time an XBLA game would be a cover on a video game magazine. So this was like my initial idea. This simple pose, Space Marine guy, and then I worked out the guns separately. Those were my initial drawings. I had to draw this 3 times to get the idea of it. And I couldn't color my own stuff at the time, so I had to have Diego color it. It printed super dark. Colossal
Cool
waste.
though.
Yeah. And then this was something that got rejected. Another one of those collage things Dave loved to do. He gave me a bunch of random characters, so he wanted like Symphony of the Night and Samus. Zero Suit Samus. So there's one of the ideas for the layouts, and then I had to change the layout and put him down here. But he's like, that's not Simon Belmont. He looks too happy. I'm like, it's fucking art, bro. Like, he didn't like this Crash Bandicoot because it wasn't. This is why when people go, how do I get my own style? I'm like, I don't know. No one will let me draw how I would want to draw. Like, this is the first time I've ever dealt with situations where I was like, I can't. I mean, that's a perfectly acceptable Crash Bandicoot. Go clean it up, right? But what's wrong with that? Like, that's what Ashley, Ashley's doing art just like that, right? All expressive and stuff. And no one's being like, hey, fucking, you suck, Ashley. Go draw Crash exactly how he is, all stupid. And that's what I had to go and do, you know? And I should have just been like, fuck you. But I didn't do that. That's why I tell her, just do what you're gonna do. Don't listen to people. So this is me trying to work that out. And there's actually a Captain Commando. This whole thing fell apart because I just couldn't meet Dave's demands. And then they were going to relaunch their website in 2008 too, and he wanted a character, so I designed his character. She'd be the girl of gaming, kind of like a proto bomb cat in a way. She's going to be the character for Fusion Planet. She gave these headphones that would look like bunny ears, which now they have them, like the kitty ears ones, but this is before that. And I was trying to tell Dave about cosplay girls and this whole culture of like making video game themed outfits, which went way
Hmm.
over his fucking head. He's like, no, Girls of Gaming is about female art from video games. I'm like, no, it should be about girls who dress up in costumes, and like you could take the controllers of like the Xbox and make a whole outfit out of it.
Right.
Wait, did not get that idea. That was a very difficult idea to get across. And then for some reason, when Diego colored her, her face ended up looking very Latina. I don't know how that worked out. Like I did this sort of anime kind of thing,
Hmm.
and then she ended up looking exactly like Shakira. Shakira, yeah, very Shakira. It's interesting. I think it's the last time Diego colored my work. And then these were some initial sketches for the Mirror's Edge piece I did, the front and back of Faith. Can't even believe I kept this shit. I did it 2 ways before I did the inking. And then I needed money because Dave wasn't paying me all the time. Like
Hmm.
checks were coming late, so I took a couple freelance gigs. This is one I did for. You ever hear of a company called Arcana?
No.
So Arcana was one of these indie comic studios. There was Viper, Arcana, Ape. They've all gone out of business, disappeared, whatever. So I had this idea. I actually had another piece in here. I wonder where. I didn't toss it, did I? I had this idea that for Comic Con, rather than put up the cover arts, which are never, I said, that great. I'm like, we could do a series of posters for each book. So like, this was some line art for this book called Eve, and I did another one for Kawaii or whatever, but I don't know where this. I had those pencils. They're in here somewhere. You have any questions, Brandon, or comments?
No, I kind of just enjoying watching it. Like most people, I mean, I've seen a lot of it, so it's hard for me to go back and ask you a question about it. I mean, other than I know how frustrating it must have been to have all that rejection and keep going.
Yeah, all this stuff has been rejected or denied, not printed. Like forgotten
Yeah.
about. You know, like it's just an entire. This is like the first time half this shit's ever been anywhere.
Right, this is a folder of rejection.
Yeah, this is my career. VF says, "How you doing?" So then I got back to finally drawing Death Junior. Now none of these Death Junior pages are in order; they're all random. So we'll just start with the front. So here are some initial sketches for an ad for Comic Con. This is supposed to be Michael and Angel and the Devil. She wanted a guitar, and I had this idea of giving her a guitar like a pitchfork. Dave hated that. He hated like this specific idea. Just make it a guitar. I'm like, all right, man. Like he used to take it personal. It's not like I'm saying he hated one of my ideas. It's just you don't know how personal. And he would tell me it's very important that it just be this specific Les Paul guitar. I'm like, I don't fucking give a shit. So this was Ruffy's for another page where Silence. She has this little dog. If you ever seen the Curtis piece, there's this little lizard creature on the bottom. People always ask me who that lizard creature is. That's this creature from the book. I thought I'd hide him in there. And so it's supposed to be a conversation between her, the devil, Michael, and Silence gets mad. And this little thing is supposed to be God, who's like, I drew him like I don't know, a skinless gremlin or something. It's fucking weird. So those are my rough pencils. This is Dead Junior when he meets her for the first time. And these were some more cleaned up pencils that I ended up digitally inking. This was God's council room. There's Death Junior's dad, Death, and this is supposed to be the devil. And then you would go into this room, And then here, digitally, I set up his own arcade unit. So I put the Last Starfighter arcade unit in there. That's this Sega game, Gunblade, where you could use these two guns that actually vibrated. So when I used to play the game in the arcade, I used to play both sides, and it was fucking awesome. It was one of my favorite things to do. This is G-Lock Art 360. That arcade game, actually, it's like Afterburner, but it would actually go upside down, the whole thing. Dave owned one. That's how rich Dave was from play. You know, now he's not so rich. So this is God at the table. He's all happy. And they're supposed to sit around, and God's going to give him this plan. I don't know. The script wasn't written, so I couldn't tell you what they were talking about. And then Dave didn't like that. He wanted a different panel, so I switched it to that. He would just tell me what...
It's got to be weird to draw something with no script.
Yeah, he would just describe kind of loosely, and I would take notes. So there's supposed to be this bug in a room, and I actually drew it as a bug. That's Seep, or whatever. Seep is supposed to be spying on them. So he comes in, and then... So Seep is a character from Death Jr. where he's this fetus in a tank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a real thing. And then like he comes over here and has a little conversation with the devil. And so this is just cleanup lines from those pages, all comped together. And then I had this idea. Dave was going to launch GameFan in between this, right? And not in between this. It was after play, so this is kind of getting ahead of myself. But he had this idea of launching GameFan. And so, relaunching GameFan. GameFan was a video game magazine from the 90s. And all the editors, all the people who wrote for the game reviews had their own names, like Chainsaw, Nightmare.
Right.
Dave was E-Storm, so I wanted to make E-Storm an actual character in the magazine, where he'd be like this badass, the lone gamer, like the last video game writer. This is like me doing my Extreme Studios here.
All right.
Right? Like
he is the final one.
Yeah, and there's Monitor, which was their mascot. So it's going to be the return of E-Storm and Monitor. And I was doing this whole comic where they'd rise up and he'd have this giant gun blade and shit. And Monitor had all these cables and tubes.
Johnny joins the room. All the way from Canada.
So then I did another version of that face without all the grits.
Don't sound too enthusiastic about it, Rob.
Yeah, it went really well.
this is you. And so I had guns and fucking shit and rejection, despair. Still cool shit, man. Like it sucked that the guy couldn't see your vision on things like the girls of gaming and all this shit. But I mean, you still made some badass stuff that. Could be used further down the line.
I guess, man. So this is a picture of Silence and her wings. I'm not excited about it because it's like I've been through AI, homelessness, the army, a bunch of shitty t-shirt jobs, but this whole run at GameFan and Dead Jr. was like a colossal waste of my life. I don't look. I mean, it brought me to. People talk about starving artists. I never starved. I always, even though the t-shirt jobs were shitty, I went from $17 an hour to $55,000 a year in 3 years, working my ass off. So I was at least being rewarded, even though like the artwork wasn't that great. I was seeing a living. I was paying my student loans. As soon as I got out, I paid for the first year. I mean, I didn't have a lot of free time, but I was working on Monstroids. At least I was drawing comics, and I was paying my bills and saving money, right? Mm-hmm. And then along comes this job to work at a video game magazine, which I was naive. I thought that was like my dream, like, wow, I can actually do it. And it just ruined my life, dude, like financially. So like everything I show you is a complete waste of my time. I can't say I learned anything from this endeavor, other than I've learned how to draw and ink digitally, but so what? Like I would have eventually gotten to that anyway because I was up on owning a Cintiq. Here's another page. I don't know why I just kept having to redraw the shit to figure out the characters. I didn't know how to layer things. Like here, I got smart. I started only drawing the thin lines, and then I would ink it digitally with all the thick and thin. So I was saving myself some time. And this is like God showing his little winged
Oh my!
bug drone. Bug drone, right? That's what we have now. We have drones that look like mosquitoes. Is a head of
It was
drone.
just it was the way you worded it, positively.
Well, there was no script, so I had to just, you know. And Dead Jr. was barely in his story. I was like, I thought this was about Dead Jr. What's with God and the devil and Michael and this chick Silence? Like, there's no Dead Jr. in the book or Pandora or anyone else. It was just Dave's fucking way to get his own fucking idea in there. I like this panel here. I like the way I drew her. That came out nice. But I could never get check this out. The devil hugs Silence and grabs her ass. Right? He cops a
Classy.
feel. She cops a feel, and then the dog is all happy. The dog, it's a dogosaurus. It's a half dog, half dinosaur. And then I gave Pandora like a lunchbox and whole hot topicy thing like Silence changed her. And I just wanted these characters, people that knew, you know. Jeff Matsuda gave me the thumbs up. He liked the art and the way I was going with Dead Jr. But this other shit, I don't know, man. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of fond memories, but you know, I sat here working at it right here in this very room, in this very spot. Here we go. Here's me working out the background so I can comp it in.
And
You
you're
know?
finally leaving. You have gone full circle.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at that dynamic shit. 1 point dynamic. Look
Whoa!
at that.
Everybody, look at that shit.
Yeah, well, wait till you do it, Brandon.
Never.
Never.
You calm down. All right. Let's not get
Never.
ahead of ourselves.
And so here would be the characters that I would then comp over this. And then just ink them all together.
Johnny says, "So you've been at this apartment a long time?"
11, 12 years now?
Damn, that's a long ass time to be in one place.
Yeah. I did most of this here. After Ukiah, I'd say how far back? The Spider-Man would be the last thing I drew in my old apartment. So everything after the Spider-Man forward has all been right in here. This is where Dead Jr. first appears. This was Russ for that ad for Comic-Con. I like the little doggy source. He's cute. Silence. And I'll be honest, Brandon, like if this is all I ever drew in terms of quality, I'd be
Mhm.
fine. I don't need to be fucking Loish or Jim Lee or you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
that's the thing, you know. But one of the things I didn't know how to do was color my own work. Like this right here, I could have just scanned and colored this. I didn't need to add any inks. But Diego had a coloring style that didn't mesh with this. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
So it was tough, man. I like him, but it was very tough. And then I had a hard time doing everything at once, figuring out the backgrounds and all the characters. You know, like this was supposed to be a God's table, and I wanted it to be dynamic, so I actually curved the vanishing point, so it'd be dynamic, it'd curve. It'd be like a
Mhm.
circular thing, and then there'd be this screen. They had to watch TV. I don't fucking know. Like, I think they're supposed to watch TV or something. And then this is the second pass at the devil with no pitchfork guitar. Because I was told not to do that. Do not do that. Oh, his office with all the games, this is where I blocked him in. So then I went and drew the games digitally because it was easier to get all those details. But I used this as my basis. So I did my roughy, this would be my roughy lines, right?
Mhm.
Traditionally, scan them in. You know, now with the way I draw, I could do this super tiny. You know, like the way I draw with red, mechanical lead, and Copics, I could work this all out in a small little thing and then scan it in and get a second pass pretty easily. But I wanted the level of detail to be, you know, I'm gonna say cliffhanger, but you know, like image, good image, not bad image, right? Like
Right.
was what I wanted to do. I like the way this little scythe comes all the way out here. It's ridiculous. Pandora always looked nice. I like the way she came out. She's not in the book, but she wasn't. She came out cool. And I just mirrored Death Junior's hands before I inked them. I was like, I'll just draw one and then mirror it. I don't need to draw both hands. So, there's an alternate Death Junior panel that got deleted. This was me working out techno stuff for Seek. He had to have all these techno readouts. So I actually penciled those in.
It's cool though seeing the the much more 3D bodies and stuff. So like the page before that, where I guess it was Def Junior's hands coming out at you. You know, the arms out, fingers out, and stuff. Looks a lot better compared to when you first tried to do it, where it would come off very flat.
Right, but Dave didn't like this. He wanted him just sitting there. So that got rejected. So it became this panel, where he's like, huh. Like, see?
Hmm.
He's not supposed to be happy. He's supposed to be like, well, he's embarrassed. And I'm like, all right. If you just wrote a fucking script that said that, I would have drawn it the first fucking time. So, should have been in the room when I would be like yelling at Dave over all this stuff. Why are you wasting my life? You weren't in this room.
No.
You're just someone I'd see every year. And this was a panel that God had a vision. I don't know. It had to do with someone was cloning, was resurrecting people. Something about resurrecting people, and so they were taking souls from heaven and hell, and so God and the devil couldn't get involved, otherwise it'd start Armageddon. So they sent their Death Junior and the daughter of Saint Michael to figure out who was doing this, sort of get around the rules. I think that was the basis of the story.
Oh, how about that?
And then that one panel that was all circular, Dave hated. They had to redo it. So the doors just open, they would come in. I found that when I started,
So Dave didn't seem very happy with anything he's soon to make.
If you ever want to, if you think it's just me, you know who Sanford Green is? The artist,
Yep.
Sanford Green?
Yeah.
You should go on his
I own some of his art.
Go on his DeviantArt page and find the time he drew Sonic the Hedgehog or did a play cover, and just just read what he writes about the owner of the magazine and his changes. That's Dave.
Yeah, I'm sure it's good.
Anyhow, so on the weekends I'd work on Monstroids, and I got to go do Monstroids issue 1. So we got to redo the origin story. We're almost done, folks. We almost got to redo the origin story. So I got a second pass. I redesigned the Doctor to be more like Sean Connery, right, with dreads. Thought that would be fun. I don't know why. And then so these are, we had to work the origin out into one panel. I wanted it more dynamic, less. I mean, they still have taffy muscles, but less taffy muscles. You can see these shapes that actually, this line starts here and comes around here and it continues around. There's a lot of little things like that where instead of this being like a round, a bump, it's actually smooth. It goes all the way through. And you can see like crunchbacks, like trying to position them so that their gear is there and not competing with one another for space. Took a lot of fucking effort. Classic Jim Lee flying pose there. Foreshortening. Very nice. And so the first issue of the Monstroids dealt with them. These are supposed to be the old monsters trying to resurrect the original ancient monsters like the Phoenix and the Sphinx and shit like that. So, and the Chinese dragon, I don't know. So they were going to go in here and I brought back the yin yang door, right? You like that? This actually is from Ukiyo.
I'm going to get you a little yin yang necklace.
That's me fitting the Ukiyo door back in there, motherfucker. You like that shit?
No.
Yeah, it never got published, so how good that did me. But I do like this low angle thing. It's a little dramatic. It's a simple pose, but it works. And I showed the color versions of these. This is them arguing. He's like, I am a Yeti, you will fucking... And he's like, I'm fucking the leader, I'll fuck you up. And she's like... It's like Destro arguing with Cobra Commander, and she's the Baroness. And I tried to explain it to Kevin, he's like, G.I. Joe sucked. I'm like, you're not helping, bro. You want to sell toys in a cartoon? Don't walk into a room and tell people G.I. Joes and Transformers suck.
Right.
Then they're gonna be like, "How about Underworld 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7?" You
Right.
know, Kevin. Like, I just don't know if that's. These were some of the model sheets that I drew for these characters before I started. I had to work out their designs. And this was the big opener for the new Dr. Frankenheim or whatever. I actually put vials coming out of him. It's totally fucking unrealistic. Like, there's no way that. Why would they do that? But it looked cool.
All it would take is just like some rocks. You'd mess him up.
Well, you don't know how sturdy that shit is. So if he's half made out of metal, he'd fuck you up. And so here's the big. This is Frankenborg's past, where he got offered to join them, and he's like, "I will never join you." So I actually did like the Bespin, chamber right here. But you'll see in this panel, I don't draw any of the chrome. There's no chromies. No chromes anywhere. But I do like this shoulder
It's a lot
design.
going on.
And they're all at a table eating cereal. Look at the little werewolf's got a spoon full of cereal in his mouth.
And these are all pencils, right?
Yeah, these are just pencils. These are HB.
Ask Johnny.
These are all HB pencils. And you can see the cereal top boxes here. And this was a panel of one of the bad guys I had to add in. This is where Frankenborg fights that. He had to be fighting a security droid, and they have this danger room, and I call it the Hurt Locker before that movie came out. And when the movie came out, they didn't
What
want
movie?
me. The Hurt Locker. Um,
No, what movie?
the movie's called The Hurt Locker.
What's it about?
It's Hawkeye, man. It's the movie he won an Oscar for. The Iraq, the Afghan. You know what I'm talking about?
Of course, I just wanted to hear you explain it all.
All right, you're fucking with me. Cute. So I thought it would be cool to have the droid look like Terminator, so we're fitting the monster motif. I
Uh-huh.
made a Terminator T800.
T-180?
Was it T18? I thought it was T800, but T100.
You might be right.
I can't remember. But so
It's Arnold.
this is me just working out rough pencils now and doing the final lines digitally to speed up time. Which, by the way, this is essentially what an inker would have gone over. You know what I mean? When you look at like this sort of thing, maybe a little bit more detailed than this, but not really. When you got a good inker, like this is kind of like what you do. You draw like half of it and they finish the other half. So that's how I was getting through these pages. Now here's the biggie, dude. I actually laid this fucking thing out, the Age of Monsters. This is me actually working out the basic gist of it in pencil. You can actually see the stack of coffins, and one of the zombies is coming up. It's the Shawshank pose,
Jesus.
right? Stan Winston had just died, so I actually put Rip Stan Winston on there. And this is a panel that got changed because Kevin wanted a big war room scene, so instead, I initially had this idea that there'd be this cool throne room for the main bad guy, that Doctor Doom, right? He's sitting on that fucking throne room.
Right.
But that went away. What else do we got? Oh, here's a second pass at that because Kevin wanted changes. So this was me working in the monsters for the Age of Monsters on a second pass. And I actually wanted him to be similar to the Nazis in Indiana Jones. So I was going to give him little like monster Nazi flags.
Mm-hmm.
They nixed that idea.
Oh, yeah.
But they're monsters. They can be Nazis. I like this panel way better, but that got nixed. It became a little silhouette. And this got simplified to one panel. So some of these panels are overlapping weirdly. I trimmed that up a bit, but you can see me drawing all the little bugs and worms, and there's pumpkins, and the dead will rise from the grave.
What else you got?
We're almost done. Don't be a hater. So this is Kevin Grievous as Nick Fury. Captain Nivak or whatever. I made this little skull symbol. Similar to kind of like the Punisher meets, I don't know, the X-Men symbol or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then Frankenboard, like, he's like at a table trying to do this, and he's got these giant fucking mitts. It's hard to make them emote, dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you look at this compared to what I was doing on Ukiyo just 4 years earlier, you know? I mean, you could see the through line, you know? Nice big low angle, giant chin. And he's like, hey, I know that shit. The writing sucked. But I just want to be like, I know that. And then here's all their candy. That changed in the final. For some reason, the whole thing got tinted green. Kevin said all the inters need to be green. And I don't know. It ended up coming out weird. But he's like, yeah, back when I was a mummy, we had this fucking sphinx, la da 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 da, almost blew up everything, killed the world, no big deal. And then I wish it was that entertaining. So this is another training scene. So just little things like working out, like eliminating chromes. Anytime they're training, I try to add a new monster to the mix, a different kind of
Mm-hmm.
monster. Like this is like a tribute to Weapon Zero monster. You can see like the hands. Just shit for my own benefit, bro. Like it's got nothing to do with. This was the Vader pose. So it's supposed to be Frankenboard looking down in on this training room, and so I wanted to be like Vader on the deck of the fucking Superstar Destroyer looking down and shit. Like the way this construction came out on the hands. And then this floor pattern I did digitally because that was a fucking pain in the ass. But all these panels would be like kind of like the bridge of the Nebuchadnezzar in the Matrix, all like
Mm-hmm.
panel you can pull down tubes. I tried to, since they were covered in tubes, I tried to continue that motif everywhere so that they would fit in. He was like, no, everything should be clean down there. I'm like, but they aren't clean.
Right.
Like, I don't, what is the, fuck, man, what is the fucking through line here? They live in an old creepy mansion. They have clean technology underneath, but then they're covered in, see, there was no consistency.
Yeah.
One of the things, too, we couldn't make him have a flat top because apparently Universal owns that. So,
Owns Frankenstein with a flat top.
yeah, that's a specific design that Universal owns.
Isn't that Boris
And he can't have, and
Karloff?
yeah, but they own that.
That's what I'm saying. Is that
Yeah.
that look?
And the bolts, too, can do it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Yeah. So when I was first posting things, people were like, he's supposed to have a flat top, and where are his bolts? I'm like, license infringement. So this was supposed to be the pass between Frankenborg and this monster, and they were fighting all these zombies in Egypt and shit. And then I had to add in this gorilla character. So the final actually has a gorilla. I like the way this little zombie dude came out. All these little cartoon skulls. Chewed off his ear.
Very Evander Holyfield-ish.
Oh, look at that. Haha, you made a joke. Little bone coming out of his hand there. Back to the Mario zombie, right? Idea. It's probably where I lifted my own stuff. The 3D hand. He's like, they're all supposed to be arguing, and then Frankenberg comes in. He's like, you guys suck. And he's like, you want to fight? Because, you know, it's that bad. You know, working on this stuff taught me that I can write my own poor scripts. I don't actually need. If the review, I could imagine the review is, you know, the art's okay, the writing sucks. I figure I could accomplish that on my own, you know, and get the book done. And no one would be telling me, Hey, you're trying too hard. Like
Right.
this, like you don't need tubes here. You know, this works just as is. Like here, I drew them so small. I just wanted to prove, like, if you just eliminated them, you can. It doesn't add anything. It doesn't take away anything.
Johnny says this can be a Darkstalkers reboot in space.
In space. I already have that idea. So this is that big shot. I had to change it.
Yeah, Johnny.
Frosted fangs, Frankenflakes, the mummy comb. This is before they did that Loki Charms too thing, by the way. This is before the Loki Charms thing took off on the net. So when that took off, I'm like, that's what I was trying to do. Ghost toasties, ghost toasties, scarios, and then they're drinking cans of oil because Kevin, I don't know, like he's got a big can of oil, and they're fighting too. They're all fighting.
Makes sense. Sounds like you loved it.
Oh, and here's the monkey character I had to comp in. I had to change his face. It wasn't monkeyish enough, so the final actually has a full gorilla face. It's a nice profit gun. Swipe that from profit. Anytime I can work in a little Liefeld. And that earlier scene is where they were stealing this fucking, I don't know what this is, man. Big Trouble in Little China Box. Big Trouble in Little Jumanji, I think is what I was calling it. Like, what was all this Chinese symbol shit? And like, with this power, we can unleash fucking a deadline. That would be amazing. And this is the last time I drew a page with rough pencils. I went completely digital after this. Like, I worked out this guy, and I was like, you know what? I don't need to do this part. I can do this digitally now. And I did the rest of the book digitally. The only other thing that I have that was pencils was this, the cover. And this time I was like, I'm just going to draw all the characters on the cover. Kevin, I don't want no crazy fucking, look at the bad guys coming at me. I just want all the characters on the cover.
Much better.
The last time I drew all the chromies. And the very final thing I have is, and I've never shown this before, one of the first times I fucked around with watercolor.
Exclusive.
This is one of the first times I fucked around with saucies. This is a Ninja Turtles thing.
Exclusive right here.
Yeah. This was going to be Raphael here, and then I'd have Leo, a Donnie, and a Michelangelo. And I just was no good with watercolor. But I tried.
Oh, shit. That's cool. Not bad.
So around 2010, around here. 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. So this idea that you could do a full character in this spot and flip out these little bits. So like if it was Donnie, then I would do a Raphael one, and then flip them back in. You know, was the idea, but I never took it beyond that. So that's it.
Chloe says favorite turtle right there. Johnny says that's really cool.
Yeah, well, that's it, folks. Whew.
Wait. Hey, can you show that red Monica again for the people who did not see it earlier?
No. You just want to hate.
For the people who joined in right now, make sure you go back and rewatch the beginning of this video when it's all said and done. There's maybe like at 5 minutes in, there's a great red Monica piece from Battle Chasers.
There you go, asshole. There. Laugh it up, bro. Still more female than that Mikasa you drew.
Oh, I know. My shit was hideous. I'm not knocking that.
So, I mean, from 2001 to about 2011, right, is what we're kind of looking at here. And to give that perspective, I mean, we go from 2001 to 2011, roughly. I think it's more like 2010, but 9-year difference. So, some of us aren't born with talent, right? Some of us have to grind this fucking shit out. That's basically it, folks. And that is all I will be doing of that ever again. We completed the trek, right? You like all this packing going on here, man? Like all this shit? It's all boxed up, bro.
I'm like I said, I'm just happy to spend my Friday night sitting in front of a computer for an hour and a half.
Fuck you, you're gonna go and do flats now.
I'm gonna go to the gym and eat
And then
first.
you're gonna do flats. So, and I got stuff to do myself. So that being said, folks, appreciate you hanging out, Johnny, Ash, VF, Chloe, everybody. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I always appreciate. Uh, Brandon, is there anything you'd like to add to that, or do you have any hope?
I think I might get better one day. You know, I like to take my time, so 10 years, good, good stretch goal.
Johnny should know I already have 2012 through 16. We did a bit of that, the last cast, right?
Yeah, Johnny.
Yeah, it was more of a supplemental. So, all right, folks. There, I showed off my old work. We've seen it all. You know. You know what? Know what I will do, just to put it into perspective.
Oh snap! There's more.
Let's try it. No, there's not more, but I think
Oh.
this I can show. I can definitely show you 2011. I think this would be more fair. Right. Let's try this. Let's just put this all into perspective here. Get this queued up. So this is 2001, December, right? This fucking monstrosity. Best I could do. Couldn't even color it. And this Enslave is literally 10 years later, where I did the lines and all my own colors. That's 10 years of working my fucking ass off. Only to have an art director at Comic-Con ask me why I would ever ink this in Photoshop. I'm never going to shake that. But why? He was German. He's like, why would you do that? You know? Why? I'm like, because it's all I have. Like, you know, I mean, it's very good, but it seems it would be difficult. You know? I'm like, difficult? You should see the shit I fucking, you know? He was from Morocco. He wasn't German. I'm not French. I am Moroccan. I'm like, whatever. So that was a fun Comic-Con. So, folks, the next phase is 2016 forward. That's basically it, right? Where we actually get a series of art wins, you know, and you're seeing them now. Like when you look at the Star Wars retro piece, you look at the Battletoads, you see the Chrono Triggers. I mean, you're seeing my ideas. No feedback, right? No changes. What I would like to do. So that Enslaved piece was 100% me, and the studio hated it. Hated it. Didn't give a shit. Printed it anyway because I told Dave, either we print this or I don't hand you the files to print the magazine. Since I was doing all the layouts, I was like, it's going to be a cover or you don't get your shit. So, haha. All right, Brandon, you enjoy your night. Say goodbye, Brandon.
Bye, everybody.
All right, talk to y'all soon. Bye. Next stop, Idaho. I'm out of here.